Hey guys, welcome back to another Rest, Eat, Move podcast. I hope your new year is off to an amazing start. Again, if you listened to the last podcast, we've partnered with Roan. We believe in Roan's mission, specifically around men's mental health and wellness in general. And Nate and the team there are fantastic. So we partner with them. If you are looking for some new athletic gear, we wear it all the time. Roan.com and use the promo code OTL-20 for 20% off. Thanks to that partnership. So, Dad, as we dive in the new year, and I think the audience, for most of them that follow us, have seen my little observation that I have to start creating more content because there's so much noise out there. We've talked about it for years and years, and we've made content here and there. But as the content engine keeps deploying, I think they said 3 billion people use Facebook each day, and it's shorter and shorter and more attention grabbing. There's just a bunch of garbage. I mean, to make it straightforward, it's just garbage. You got people one day saying that you need a cold plunge every day, which I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it starts to make people think, well, that must be it. Or then I need to take creatine or pre-workout or post-workout, or I need to now take hormonal replacement therapy. It doesn't end. And then you got nose tape and mouth tape and this more and more. And you start to realize we're a consumption, world. It's all about something new. I think that's sometimes going to be a mistake for long-term health. And from your perspective at 67, I think you talk about your journey in that of you realize there's some things that you used to do that weren't quite required, but also could sacrifice long-term health. And so today, let's kind of talk about these things we need to debunk, these mindsets that we have to shake, the information that's just information or entertainment with a little bit of information. And I'll start the podcast this way. I was listening to a podcast and a couple pieces of social media content around pretty smart people with what I would probably consider good intention, using scientific papers and scientific jargon to convince people that they're missing something. What happens if we base all of nutrition on just like the science, the papers? You've been part of this space for a long time, and you've been told, hey, what's the science behind some of this stuff? What is the fine line between too much science or papers or what you read in a book versus real food and the art?
Well, the human body is so sophisticated, and so we're not designed to consume nutrients in isolation. So when you eat an orange or an apple, you're going to get all sorts of benefits from that. If you isolate that orange and apple, like for example, there's
vitamin C.
Yeah, there's Juice Plus, and there's the list goes on and on. So wow, that makes more sense. Why wouldn't I just take this pill? But you're never going to have the entire how the body's working, how the gut's breaking it down, the energy you get from it. There's a cascade of things that happen in the human body. And I think that's what we keep missing. Like, let's just take protein powder. What if you really watched protein powder from the beginning to the end? Number one, where does it come from? How's it processed? How's it made? How's it digested? You could see along the way, but how are you going to measure that? So a lot of it's just common sense. Like if you ate a certain food, we're designed to eat food. We're not designed to eat nutrients. And that's where we're really moving. So I'm going to take a peptide. I'm going to take creatine. I'm going to take, vitamin D. I'll take this. Where does it end? I got to take, hormone replacement therapy. I got to take testosterone replacement therapy. So again, you got to ask the question, how does the body function? And I think that's where we get sideways. And now I'm grasping for all these little, these benefits. I'm going to take this for this benefit and this for this benefit. In reality, they all work together. So I think that's where we really get sideways, is that you can make any research paper come to life to basically support your.
So the takeaway with papers is you're going to usually be studying something in isolation, which is not actually reality.
Yeah, I mean, we want research, absolutely. We want comparisons. We want all this stuff. But at the same time, we got to go back to some common sense. If I really want to consume more protein, where does protein come from? Nuts, seeds, animal products, plants. Okay, well, why wouldn't I start with that? Or if I want to, where's creatine come from? Well, it's basically it comes from meat. It's in your muscle. Why are we all of a sudden deficient in creatine? Or testosterone, where's that made? Well, that's made from cholesterol. So if it's made from cholesterol and it's made in the third stage of sleep, and then in omega-3 fats is raw material and selenium and zinc, why don't we focus on that versus let's just jump right to whatever?
So it's like, I'm making this up on the fly. So protein powder is saying, okay, I need more grams of protein. And so if I isolate something and process it down and strip everything away, I can get right to the thing.
So just stop right there for a second. So why do you need more grams of protein?
But let's just say that's what people believe.
All right, but let's go. But why do they believe that?
That's a good question.
So why do I believe I need what's adequate amount of protein?
I was in elementary school probably when that craze started, and it still hasn't stopped. You tell me why.
When I was competing my first bodybuilding contest in 1985, I was told I needed to take 250 grams of protein a day. Nobody ever told me about eating healthy fats. Nobody ever told about eating healthy carbs. You just have to do the 250 grams of protein.
Now, that must have come from, you look at a muscle, which bodybuilding is a muscle.
Yeah,
And what is it made out of? Most of it's made out of protein.
But protein is a builder, right? And it's called nitrogen balance. Do I have enough nitrogen at the party so I can regenerate and rebuild and whatever? Yeah. But again, now all of a sudden, if I don't eat food, I can't get enough protein. So I'm listening to, you listen to some of the bodybuilders and I'm eating, 6 chickens a day and 30 eggs a day. What?
Jay Cutler was eating 190 eggs.
Yeah. I mean,
I can't even buy eggs right now.
Right. So then you say, okay, so back to what's the goal? What's the intention?
No, I don't agree with this, but the goal is I want to be leaner, which requires more muscle. If I want more muscle, I need more protein. But what I was thinking about with protein powder, you say, okay, I got to go right to it. Well, our body was made much more magically and much more sophisticated, like you started with. And so this is what I think the example is. Is protein powder necessarily bad or not going to give us the results? I'm not arguing that, because we've seen tons of people that are just flooding their body with protein, big as a mountain, lean as they can be. There are some checks that you could say, yeah, that's working for that specific maybe outcome short term. But I remember when I was putting in this basketball hoop at my house. Remember this?
Mm-hmm.
So as it turns 5, Holly doesn't think that I should give him a basketball hoop yet because he can't even shoot on the little tykes, but I'm setting it up for the future. Well, with a good basketball hoop, and I went and I know I want to adjust it and dunk on it and I want to be a kid too. I'm going to have to make sure that it goes in the ground 6 feet, surrounded by cement. It's going to outlive everyone. Well, we end up buying mortar cement. My father-in-law just saw this, said cement, said, okay, let's get a pallet of that. And I'm talking 30 plus bags and so we're going to mix it ourselves and we're going to do this. It's kind of fun. And we do it. We put it in there and we're cleaned up. The cement is all cleaned up. It's a pain in the butt. And I look at one of the extra bags and it says mortar. And I don't know anything about construction, but I know mortar is in between the bricks. And I said to Greg, Greg, is this the same cement that we want in there? And he said, no, that's the wrong cement. So it's done. So we have to yank it out, but what we could have done, we could have easily kept it in there and it probably would have lasted, but it will crack, it will fray, and it will not last as long. And so when I heard you talk about protein, it's like, are there shortcuts? There's definitely shortcuts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But are we aware of the long-term effects? Not the side effects, not going to maybe kill you, but what are the long-term effects of taking shortcut after shortcut after shortcut? If your goal, and I think this is key, if your goal is to live a long, healthy, quality life. So this is what the noise that we're seeing, this is between the ages of 25. I'm not going to talk about people that haven't entered the workplace. It's a whole different Once you figure that out, let me know. I still don't know how to influence that group. But once you enter the workplace until you retire, this is the group we're talking about that's looking for these quick fixes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so protein powder makes so much sense. I'm busy, no time. I want to build my muscles. I want to keep them. I want to look fit. But it's like mortar cement. Does it work? Sure. It's protein. In the journals, is it going to show up and say, yeah, is it better than not? Absolutely. But I think what we forget about is we start to miss things. And after the slow drip over and over, and one of the things I see with protein powder is it's going to slow drip your digestion. I could stand here, have an argument with the most expert scientists, researchers, thought leaders on protein powder or peptides. You put in that processed protein, and it probably won't even take as long as 5 years, but after, I would say, a couple of years, you're going to have some digestive changes. What do you think to that?
Well, again, you have to just step back, and we always try to go, let's go back to the source. Like, what is it? Where does it come from? How's it? But the body has to break down that protein. So if you're eating protein from, let's just say, macadamia nuts, you're going to get monounsaturated fats. You're going to get protein from that, or you have a filet. Body's going to break it down, and it has all sorts of different ways it processes it. But the big thing, when you consume too much protein in isolation, like a protein powder, it's like putting sand in a radiator. I've said this 100 times, but the big thing that the body's going to start to really work hard at is the kidneys have to break that down. And that kidney function that most people never talk about is called glomerular filtration rate, GFR. And I've never seen such low GFR numbers for young people, which I get. You said earlier before we hopped on, what questions are you getting? I see such low GFRs, but the doctors won't talk about it unless it's under 60. So if you're a typical male or female in your mid 30s to mid 40s, your GFR should be close to 120. And I'm seeing that number 75, 80. And
no one would know, because the range when you're looking at it is it lower than 60? And if it's not, it doesn't register.
Nobody,
you don't even know the number.
You don't even know the number. So when I sit down with people and I'm having a hard time influencing this conversation, give me that number. So I'm back to the science.
Well, let's just say you have a pretty fit 35-year-old. Okay, works out, going hard, maybe very successful in their work, and they're running hot. It's just their personality, though, and they strive to be in that stress, fight or flight. And you're trying to argue like you don't need protein powder, you don't need pre-workout, you don't need this energy drink. Those are the big three that we see consumed together.
Sure, right.
I think it's hard-pressed to influence that person that hasn't done it long enough to have maybe some of the more severe side effects. But when you ask them a simple question, there's a simple question. And I have a couple friends that in their 20s looked really good, trained real hard, successful, looked the part. But you ask them a simple question, how's your digestion? Now, some people don't even know what that means, but let's just say, how is your bowel movement?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, why are you asking that? And if they're really vulnerable or they want to be honest, they say, I have a bowel movement 3-4 times a day. You say, that's what we're worried about. You're running too hot. Amino acid, there's too much acid.
Yeah, you're limiting your bowels, your bowel, urine, lymph, lungs, skin. Again, that is out of balance. So, but again, what you're seeing is you're seeing the body, you're seeing their testimonial, and for the average person, look on social, they're going to go, wait a minute, I need more whey protein or plant protein or whatever it is. And that's just one of them. Creatine's another one now. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they're like, you're really promoting creatine for women and seniors. Oh, yeah. It's going crazy.
They're going to promote it for anybody that it could sell to.
So again, are we deficient in creatine all of a sudden?
No, it's not an essential nutrient.
Yeah. Are we deficient in protein? For most people, not if they're eating real food. So there's not back to nutrition 101. It's number one is what am I missing? And number two, what am I absorbing?
If anything, I think we're deficient in food.
We're deficient in food.
Yeah, I think we consume tons of calorie
Yeah, in isolation.
and tons of junk and tons of supplements.
So again, back to when you eat a carrot or you eat a potato or you consume a piece of chicken or an egg or whatever, there's many nutrients along the way. Like for example, you consume an egg. Nobody really thinks about this, but when you consume an egg, it's a healthier chicken. You're going to have choline, which is the egg yolk, which is great for your brain health. You have all amino acids. There's lots of things. Or I could just take the isolated
Egg beaters.
egg beaters, or I could take this isolated egg protein. So again, now I'm missing the choline. You can see now I'm missing the cascade of how the body breaks
What
it down.
about the polyphenols or the antioxidants?
Yeah,
or the
it goes
things,
on and on.
The things that always die quickly. So if I bite into an apple,
Right.
those antioxidants are slowly just.
And again, back to your pH. Your pH becomes more acidic. Our podcast, on inflammation, you have more inflammation. Your skin's more blotchy, and
So it's
gut
a double-edged
health.
sword. So we don't want to get too caught up into the papers. When I hear, and again, we're not here to bash people, but when I listen to Dr. Huberman, I think there's a lot of good information, but it's always about the paper, the literature, the science, and the mistake with that is there's no art to it. So if the paper says you need to eat 50 milligrams of X, and the best way to do that is to get it in a pill, because the way that to get that nutrient is from tree bark. I'm just making these things up. You realize people aren't going to have tree bark. But the only way that you can test anything is you really have to isolate it and then do it with a comparison.
It's almost really impossible to compare.
Food is impossible to really study.
Yeah, like how is it broken down?
Over 30 years.
Yeah. And you're a big fan of it, but Paul Pitchford wrote a book called Healing with Whole Foods. And it's what I love about it, that he is not giving his opinion, his bias. He's telling you what a carrot is. What is a turnip? What is he's telling you
hot or cold?
What it is. Is it yin? Is it yang? What are the nutrients in it? There's no debating that.
And but there's an art to food that I think gets lost. But there is a double-edged sword. So if there's too much paper, this with the literature, I think people are going to just over supplement. Let's call it what it is.
For sure.
Over supplement.
Yep.
Okay. And then there's the other side. No research, no science. We have people that we know in our life that, they talk to their neighbor and their friend, and they're doing the newest trend on TikTok.
Right.
And next thing you know, it's like, oh, this is so easy. You just mix sea moss with kiwi strawberry flavor.
Right.
And then the question is, I know what sea moss is. I've seen it. I've tasted it. To make it kiwi strawberry, though, I'm not sure. And wait, where did you get that? You got that from your neighbor's aunt who makes it in her basement? So there is another side of it where it's like, this is all art.
Right.
No, there's a balancing act, but I think food, for the most part, isn't just the art, and it isn't just the science. It is like that common sense Kristen always loved to talk about. Like if it has one ingredient, and there's times that there are some one ingredient foods, it's like you don't want to over consume it. But if it has one ingredient for the most part, and that's what you consume 80% of your food from, you're probably not going to be deficient in many of these nutrients.
Yeah, I mean, that's the genesis behind the food target. You're just trying to eat more live, whole foods.
Yeah.
And you're trying to make it better. And you're trying to upgrade. So if you're like peanut butter, you get a better peanut butter. It really gets back to the ingredients. And you're not buying peanut butter. I mean, you could buy it in a powder, but why would you? I mean, at Foods for Living back in the day, they'd have a peanut butter maker or a cashew butter maker, and you put the cashews in there, and you could see it.
Or you could make it. Yeah, there's always
you could
ways.
see it.
But then, so, to kind of arm this literature and paper, it keeps going and it keeps going. And next thing you know, you hear these things like you're deficient in magnesium. So I made this video today of how do you get magnesium from food, because I would recommend never taking a magnesium supplement. Never. Like there's 3 big supplements I tell people I never put them in my body. Three of them: calcium, magnesium, vitamin D. But then you go deeper and you see things touted that like Okay, you take AG1 and they give you vitamin K2 and vitamin D3. And then you think, and let's break that down. Why? Well, anybody knows that studies nutrition that to absorb calcium, you need other things to the party.
Right.
To absorb magnesium, you need other things to the party.
Right.
And so let's break this down for the listener. How does this work? How do we get to a point where now even these smart people that know you need calcium with magnesium with vitamin D, it's like this big circle. Instead of saying, okay, that doesn't make sense, and so we shouldn't just isolate it, they tell you now, take calcium, take magnesium, and take vitamin D3 supplements. How did they get away from that versus just thinking, how do I eat foods that kind of synergize this together?
Well, because people are not going to, many people are not, the number one, they don't know how to do it. Number two, they're not going to do it. So again, here's the CalMag supplement. I mean, you see it at every health food store.
Yeah.
CalMag, it's everywhere. You got to have the calcium
plus magnesium.
Yeah. So then you got to, we always say, like my oatmeal on the run recipe that we all consume, it's loaded with calcium and magnesium. It is what it is. You're eating nuts and you're eating oatmeal and you're eating coconut and it's just loaded. And then if you get up in the morning and do wheatgrass, which is loaded with all sorts of minerals, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not hard to do from a food. But why would I want to? I'm having trouble sleeping.
But it's
or
not
I have
really
better
a
bone
science.
health.
It's not like you look and say, I need to get this many milligrams of calcium from food, because food is food.
It's a chemistry set. So now if I'm low in B12, I'm low in B6, I'm low in vitamin C, vitamin D.
I'm low in folate.
Folate, which is again, talk
folic
about
acid.
Why would I take folic acid when you can just consume folate? Which So again, you can see how this goes. Like I said, this gentleman that I talked to just the other day is vitamin D is like 138 now, and then he's telling me he's taking 50,000 IUs of vitamin D a week. Again, if you're low in vitamin D, let's start with like what foods are high in vitamin D. Are you getting enough sunlight?
Too stressed.
What's your stress like? What's your lack? It's all those things, because if we talk about this all the time, like cholesterol makes hormones, your testosterone, your growth hormone. It's called steroidal hormones. That's what it does.
Yeah.
So understanding if your cholesterol level gets too low, that might be a problem. Number two is, where does it come from? Well, your cholesterol, your testosterone, it's made basically in the third stage of sleep. So if you're not sleeping, and then if you don't have the raw materials, which is omega-3s and selenium and zinc, you're probably not going to optimize your production of testosterone.
Or let's go the other side. You're watching an influencer. Maybe you have no idea about your stress level, but maybe you're on a cholesterol medication. You're 45, you're 50, male, female, doesn't matter. You're watching this influencer. Influencer says, well, you need more protein to be lean. And you're like, yeah, that must be why I've gained 20 pounds.
Yep.
So I'm going to add protein powder.
Gonna do that.
But that's why influencers can be good and can be trouble, because they're not going to have the full picture. When someone comes to see you for an hour and a half session, let's just break this down. Hour and a half session, you don't really get anywhere in that first hour and a half, do you? I mean, you can get, but like it's an introduction, it's discovery.
Yeah, you're right away. You're uncovering beliefs. You're asking questions.
Are you talking the most, or are you letting them talk the most if possible?
I'm letting them talk.
Yeah, so from an influencer standpoint, let's just say I'm spewing, trying to grab your attention. Do this, do that, scare them, grab the attention. Next thing you know, you got a whole population that's the average 18 plus is taking 4 meds a day.
Four or more.
So there's no discovery session. There's no discussion about are you on a med? Because that med's going to have an effect. Okay, let's just say I'm on a cholesterol medication. Next thing I know, I start upping my increase of protein. Maybe I get a little bit of energy and I'm motivated and working out. And then what is the effect of those things? Nobody has studied that. What's the effect of protein powder and creatine and pre-workout and energy drinks combination that I'm now decreasing cholesterol? You're like, well, Matt, my goal is to improve testosterone. Well, you're working up a hill that's covered in ice with sandbags tied around your ankles because you already got decreased testosterone taking the cholesterol medication.
like in one of my, like when I try to, in the first set, depends on who you're talking to also.
Oh
Because
yeah,
if they're not,
there's
so,
people that
but
are
I'll ask a
interested.
question like, so tell me your belief around cholesterol. What does it do? How's it made? Whatever. Sometimes it's completely, I have no idea. But then they believe, again, cholesterol needs to be lower or whatever it might be. Then I go into some other things like I'll say, tell me about carbohydrates. What is a carbohydrate? What does it do in the human body? Where do you get it from? Blah, 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 blah. You have to uncover this self-awareness. Then they realize that maybe I need to start, all over again with because if you have these really limiting beliefs for people, I'm going to continue to do creatine. I'm going to continue to do, I mean, you see all these influencers right now taking testosterone replacement therapy.
And you can tell.
You can tell. But at the same time, it's a steroid. Like somebody said to me the other day, it's a steroid. They're like, what? I said, it's called steroidal hormones. That's what testosterone is.
Yeah.
So testosterone replacement therapy sounds okay.
Whatever. Yeah. Whatever.
But if I'm saying I'm taking a steroid, then people lose their mind. They think, well, maybe that's going to cause, other side effects. So that's the confusion out there. And we keep moving away. Like you said, we're over supplementing and we're not really focusing on live, real food.
Well, I mean, we've all seen the videos where it's like the lens of what social media looks like, and then you show behind the camera and the cords and the lights, and
Right.
it's a disaster.
Right.
And yet through the small lens, it's like everything is so simple and put together. When you're competing in bodybuilding competition, it's not like you go from A to Z in a straight line. You never would. Or if I'm trying to break a 5-minute mile or trying to break a certain score in golf or trying to do better in academics or build my business, it's never a straight line. But yet we have an attention span that requires us to show it's going to be so easy. Like eliminate all the distractions so I can be like, oh yeah, that's how you do it.
And you have to, like Dr. Phil Nirenberger always talks about, you have to you not only try the pudding, but you have to, consume it, play with it, whatever. It's always, that's the result. It never will be just, hey, do this.
You botched that, but the proof is not in the pudding.
I did botch that.
The proof is tasting
the pudding.
Yeah.
Because
back to the papers. Here's the only thing. Like, I love Andrew Huberman. I think he has great passion and knowledge. You can't be an expert in all those things, but you can be an expert at reading scientific journals. And so what's happening is you can read papers all day and you can extract the abstract and say conclusion of this and do that. At the end of the day, if we supplement with vitamin D, creatine, colostrum, protein powder, vitamin D3, B12s, we're going to over supplement. We see it every day. And that happens because we read the paper, but we're not tasting that pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Sure, that paper, there might be some proof. But tasting the pudding is, have you ever tried to make a real smoothie with real food, with a little bit of protein and fat and flavor? It's not that easy, and you're going to make some mistakes. But if all you have to do is take a protein or something that they've already made simple for you, shake it in water, I'm telling you, we've gone to the cliff notes, but we've missed the best part of it.
Right. And so again, back to, go to our website, ontourliving.com, pull out the Know Your Numbers, take that download, and then if you want to get some of these tested, like your GFR, like your homocysteine, like your cholesterol, testosterone, and then if you feel like there's something you're missing there, then you can say, okay, what foods might be filling in the gap, or what supplements might be filling in the gap.
And the hardest part about health is, okay, if you don't have the right team, if you're not asking the right questions, don't know what questions to ask, you could go down a path and might be getting some false positive. Let's just say you start on the protein powder, the pre-workout, the colostrum, this, and you're like, okay, I feel a little bit better and doing. You probably will. You probably did have some gaps.
Yeah. I mean, if you start drinking more water, you'll feel some differences, but that's where people get crazy.
But if you don't have
the basics,
if you don't have the foundations, bottom line is we're not telling anyone to get off their medication. But if you're on too many medications, the supplements aren't going to be able to do what you're trying to do anyway.
Well, one thing real quickly on these meds. So there's so many people taking a cholesterol medication, And so many people taking a cholesterol medication that's not necessary. So, but they don't really know what the risk is before they get there. So that's a big thing, is understanding
And they don't know if
self-awareness.
they want the responsibility to try to go learn it.
Yeah, and then that's part of it. And then the second piece is, if you're doing X, Y, Z, are you taking omega-3 fats, whatever? But we have these beliefs, and then you get into some other things on top of cholesterol, like I'm not sleeping anymore. Well, why do we instantly have to go to a sleep medication? Or my blood pressure is too high. Well, the fastest way to lower your blood pressure is controlling your sympathetic nervous system. But why aren't we teaching that? So the goal is, again, create a team around you, ask questions. We're here to help you. But at the same time, like, you have to take more ownership on your health. We talk about this all the time.
I like, the one I like is, I got too much blue light in my eyes and I'm going to go to the orange glasses. Fine. But here's my thing. The orange glasses are a Band-Aid. You do have a choice to not have the blue light. Now, we're all going to be consuming blue light, and so you got to kind of decide, is this the first step? Well, it's a pretty trendy step. It's a little progressive. But I saw this video, woman's wearing the blue light glasses, doing her podcast or whatever she's doing. I mean, she's just bombarded with these lights. That's a choice. So if you say, hey, we all need these, no, not all of us need these. You think you need these because you're trying to hack this artificial thing. It's the same thing as, like, it's not the shoes, it's not the mattress, it's not the glasses, it's not any of these tools. It's us. And so if we're not willing to change us, so if you're not willing to manage stress, you're probably not going to ever have good hormones. Now, you can take the synthetic hormones, and that might be a path you take for better, but it's not the optimal. And I think what we're chasing and what we try to educate people on is, it's not going to be like the trendiest, quickest, easiest, but ideally it could have the most, like, impact. It could have the most potential.
And I think that's the goal this year, is to say, what's one or two new habits we want to develop to create this foundation that you maintain for, moving forward. Because that's the challenge, is like the flavor of the day. Like, is it something new and trendy? No, it's just, but the new and trendy piece is, how do you put that into your lifestyle?
You can make anything new and trendy.
Yeah, that's the challenge, is how do you create this habit and implement it in your lifestyle that you can repeat it and enjoy it?
It's like golf. Okay, sometimes you need a different cue for the same movement pattern. So if you're trying to, from a health standpoint, continue to get the results that you don't have, or it might just be a different cue. It doesn't have to be, now I have to spin around and jump up and down, and thinking differently. If I'm like, I hate broccoli, versus how could I like broccoli? There's a different mindset that happens.
Or what's in the same family of broccoli? You can goes on and on.
What's the same family of broccoli?
Yep.
Or how do I get selenium and zinc, but I don't like Brazil nuts? That's the question to ask.
Right.
The question isn't, how do I take a pill with selenium?
Right.
Because that's there's a treasure chest of value between a Brazil nut and the synthetic pill.
And like you said, when you take that Brazil nut, it's doing lots of other things besides just giving you selenium.
And the body knows how to do it. So anyway, we went on that tangent of, here's the deal. You're going to see so many people continuing to tout the research, the stats, the big buzzwords. You know what podcasts I'm talking about? Those are great to be educated. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't be taking 10 supplements. We shouldn't be consuming things in isolation if we have other opportunities. And there's so much foundation that we've gotten away from in our society. Just think about stress. We can say that we have blood pressure issues and attention issues, but we have a stress issue. So we have to sometimes go after the source of the problem. And in my opinion, we're the source and solution for many of these things.
For sure.
Nutrition tends to get all the hype, but we talk about rest, eat, move. If you can learn how to rest, quiet the mind, control your stress and your nervous system, I don't know if there's anything better for your immune system. And yet many people are jumping to step 5 and thinking this is, colostrum's the best thing for my immune system. It may help, but you haven't slept 8 hours in 6 months.
Right.
So maybe you don't even know it's potential.
And you kind of talked about this. We talked about that on our team meeting last week, but it's a sequence. And again, just let's maybe you're focused on your sequence this year.
Yeah, think of a map. You want to get somewhere as fast as you possibly can. You got to do it in the right order.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go north when you're trying to go south.
Yep. The sequence could be a new thing for many people.
Yeah. All right. So sequence, the takeaway is be a little bit skeptical when someone starts throwing buzzwords and trends. Just remember, nutrition is very hard to study because you can't really study food in isolation with getting the full picture. And then also, if it's kiwi strawberry flavored, I don't think that's something that came from the source. So have a great week. We'll see you again next time.